So for years and years and years, my favorite thing in the world was making video games. Like just hands down my favorite thing. I thought nothing could top that. And then VR came along, and now making VR games is just absolutely my most favorite thing in the world ever. Like everything about VR, like being able to take people into my own imaginary world. With regular video games, I guess I didn't know it back then, but I was never like taking other people into the world. I was like maybe kind of like the same way like you read a book. Like you kind of like imagine the world and you see the characters inside your head, but you don't it's not the same as VR. So I think like being able to bring people, like really bring them into my imaginary worlds, or go into other people's imaginary worlds that of games that other game developers have made. Like it's just such an amazing feeling because like if you think about regular video games, I guess I didn't know at the time, but like it's always like a character moving on the screen. Or if it's a first person shooter, you see the hands of the character that you're playing as. And that other character usually has like a name and a personality and what they look like. So you always have to like really use your imagination to, I don't know if you ever fully put yourself in the shoes of the character that you're playing as in a regular video game. But in VR, like what I love so much about it is I'm not just like when I hand my VR game to somebody to play it, it's not like I'm telling them like, okay, imagine what it feels like to be this character that you see on the screen, or in this game you're playing as this character. In VR, I'm taking that person into my world. Like not like them, actually them. Because when you put on the VR headset, you are the character. Like you look down at your hands, and those are your hands. When other characters look at you, they're looking at you. When you do things, like when you like shoot zombies, you're the one shooting zombies. When a zombie jumps out and tries to bite you in the face, it's you. Like you get like you flinch and you move and like you're like, holy shit, I'm about to be eaten by a zombie. Like it's you in the game. Like there's no more like main character. You are going into the worlds. And that's just so incredible. And then to like just be the one watching them play the game, like Swordmaster was so cool. And Jet Island was really cool too. But I mean, Swordmaster was my first experience bringing people into my virtual world and watching them sword fight with these bad guys. And like, I remember like putting my dad and my sister and my mom and all my friends, like seeing my mom sword fight people. Like, I mean, she was like screaming and like, oh my God, like she didn't play much. It was like kind of too intense. And watching my dad play, like he really got into it. He was like really sword fighting. And I remember thinking like, man, I really need to put a tutorial in the game to teach people how to sword fight. But then like when I put like my dad in the game and he just immediately started sword fighting, I was like, maybe I don't need a tutorial. I think people just know how to sword fight. It's just like built into like human beings. Like we know how to fight. And yeah, that's just so incredible. And like it's not like I designed a character and what sword fighting moves you have. Like press A to slash, press AB to slash slash, like jump slash forward slash. Like there's none of that in VR. You're just holding a sword, and however you want to swing that sword is up to you. You're the one fully in control. And that's like so cool because like people do so many unexpected things and play the game in so many different ways that I don't think about when I'm designing the game. Like they really surprise me. So yeah, just sharing Swordmaster with people, that was such a cool experience to watch all of these other people sword fighting these enemies I made, and getting tired, and it was actually like a workout in real life. I think it was like vrfitness.com or something like that actually put Swordmaster in the top 10 VR games to use for working out. So that was really cool. But yeah, it was so cool. And then Jet Island, like even more so, like that was like in a different way, because like Swordmaster was a single player experience, and Jet Island ended up becoming single player with online co-op that you could play online with friends if you wanted to. But originally I made it so that other people can jump in the game online with you, and that was a mind-blowing experience to see other people. So like I was able to bring other people into my VR world while I was also in that VR world too. And the two of us were in this world together. And that just made it feel even more real. Like to be able to hang out with people, like it's so strange. Like in a regular like online game, you have a little headset on, you're playing with a controller, and it feels like you're talking to somebody on the phone. But in VR, like when you want to talk to them, you look over at them. And like in in Jet Island, you have like these jets on your hand, and like somebody would like come up to try to talk to me, and they like jet too far and get in my personal space, and they're like, whoop, sorry. And they'll like back off a little bit, and like it really feels like they're there. Like I remember in Jet Island, originally there was a problem with making the characters like line up with each other and where they should be in real life. So me and the beta testers, to test out to see if it was working correctly, we ended up like flying to different parts of the world, and we'd like land somewhere like on top of this like skyscraper, and we're like standing up there, and we just like play a game of patty cake and just be like, okay, I think this lines up, sweet. We fly over to the other side of the world, play a game of patty cake again, we're like, oh sweet, okay, cool, everything's lined up now. And just like things like that were just like so cool. At one point we were like just having fun doing weird stuff, like sitting on the edge of this skyscraper size half pipe, and we found out if you sit on it backwards and lean off backward like that until you fall over the edge, it just makes your stomach drop. And like we were just doing funny things like that. I remember like there's like this tunnel you could slide down, we would like race each other down the tunnel, and yeah, there was just it was just like crazy and mind-blowing to like really be hanging out with people. And the more and more I developed Jet Island, the more I realized that was the experience I wanted to make. Like it got to the point where if you go into Jet Island with somebody, you just become friends. Like everyone described it as, it kind of feels like snowboarding with your friends. And like after playing for like an hour and stuff, like I was surprised how many times with completely different people, what ended up happening was we'd like fly to the top of a hill or on top of a tall building with like a cool view looking out over the horizon, and like sit on the floor as if we're just hanging out outside. Like it felt like we were sitting on the ground of like, you know, just hanging out in this world. But like if like somebody else like in the room was watching, like it probably looks so funny, me just like sitting on the floor, just like talking to myself, going like, yeah, this is really cool. And like, you know, we're just like, I must have looked like an insane person sitting on the floor like that. But like in VR, it just felt right. It felt like you're just sitting down, hanging out with your friends in VR. Like, yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, I love making VR games so much. It is just, I loved making video games, but I absolutely love making VR games. It's just like this whole new frontier. VR has just taught me so many valuable things about game design. It's completely changed the way that I make video games. Like if VR was to just disappear and I had to go back to making non-VR games, like if Thanos just snapped his fingers and VR didn't exist anymore, like I still would have like taken away so many valuable lessons about how to make a good video game. Like, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned about VR when making regular video games, like just the level of immersion and the way you have to think about video games, and probably the most important thing, the way you pull people inside the world and make them forget that they're just looking at a screen. It yeah, it's really mind blowing, and I've learned so much from VR, and I'm so happy to be able to make VR games. So yeah, that's pretty much it. VR is my new most favorite thing in the world, and yeah, I'm so lucky to be able to make VR games, and anybody can make VR games as long as you have a computer and a VR headset. That's all you need to get started, and it's so cool. If you're thinking about making VR games, do it. Definitely do it. It's so much fun. It's challenging. It's probably harder than making regular video games in a lot of ways. Some ways it's a little bit easier, and it's definitely way more 3D. It's way different than making 2D games. But then again, there's a lot of lessons I learned from making 2D games that actually apply to 3D VR games. But yeah, definitely make VR games. It's so much fun to go inside of your own world that you created. And yeah, I just absolutely love VR. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So until my next video, I'll see you later and keep making games.